The Celtics never lose back-to-back playoff games, at least not this year. So why do I think that the Warriors are going to win Game 3? Let's get into it. Hi guys, Don Garvey here, and this is I'm Just Saying. Okay, so this is my Game 3 finals preview, and I didn't do one after Game 2, and here's the thing. At first I just didn't have the opportunity, and I was trying to make these videos once a week, but during the finals I'm gonna just do it a little bit more. But also I just didn't have the opportunity to, and I'm actually glad that I didn't, because Game 1 and Game 2, the way they went, when we look at NBA games like one game at a time in a 7-game series, you tend to overreact to the last one that just happened. So now I have both of them in my head. I have my notes right here for it. So I have like both of them in my head, because after Game 1, I was like, this is a problem for Golden State. Now after Game 2, it feels a bit more balanced to me, but I'm leaning towards Golden State. But however, that's also probably because the last thing I saw was Golden State just wreck the Celtics. So let's just go ahead, hop right into it. So first half, Game 2. The thing that I noticed, and this is kind of like the argument that I'm going to make for Game 3. The reason I think the Warriors are going to win Game 3 is a little bit more to do with what I haven't seen from the Celtics as opposed to what the Warriors are doing. However, I do have one. I'll go ahead and touch on that first, and I'm gonna be a little bit haphazard about this. The thing that happened with Draymond Green, basically, Draymond Green was acting a fool. He was acting a fool during Game 2, which is basically what his job is. He's just like an accelerated version of Pat Beverly. His entire job is, not entire job, he does a lot more things. However, one of the big things that he's supposed to do is irritate the other team, bug people, get in their face. He got the tech in quarter 1. There were a couple of situations, honestly, and not just the one with Jaylen Brown that I'm thinking of, or that you might be thinking of. There were a couple of other times where it was like, he should get another tech, but they wouldn't give it to him because he would get ejected. Now, then he goes out and does, well, I shouldn't say go out. I think he was on his own podcast, actually, and he was just talking about how he knows after he gets the first tech, he's not really worried about pulling back because it's going to take a whole lot for them to give him that second tech and eject him, which, things have been said both ways. I think it was a mistake for him to say that at all, because now you've given the refs a reason to just not necessarily give you that second tech. And at first I was thinking, oh, they're going to give him a second tech and eject him. However, no. If the refs really want to punish you, and I can't take credit for this, I think it was maybe Stephen A. Smith I was listening to, and I'd never even thought about it this way. And now I was actually just listening to Keyshawn, J. Will, and Max on ESPN Radio, and they brought up another point as well. Both points are, refs can punish you without necessarily kicking you out of the game. So one of them came from Steve Javie was threatened by Allen Iverson. Threatened. I don't know how deep that went. I didn't research into the whole thing. However, the refs at the beginning of the next game in the series took that into account and started calling Allen Iverson for more carry calls, because he did carry when he did his crossover. So they would start calling the carries that they were letting slide before because of how he treated Steve Javie in a previous game. One of the thing that Stephen A. Smith said was like, look, all they have to do really is have a few quick whistles and get you into foul trouble and put your butt on the bench, and now you can't irritate or do anything. You can't have any effect. So we're not going to eject you and give you that tech. But if you pull 2 or maybe even 3 fouls in the first quarter and your coach has to sit you, is basically the same thing. I had never thought about that being a way for the refs to kind of control you, just to boop, boop, give you some quick fouls. And now, for the rest of the game, you got to watch it. If you get 2 or 3 quick fouls very early in the game, the rest of the game, you got to be careful, because they may not call it tech. They may just call it straight up foul. And now you might get kicked out for a completely different reason, late in the game when it matters a lot more. So that was my thoughts on Draymond Green. I think, honestly, and I like the Warriors. I can't stand Draymond Green on the court. I think I've said that before. Like when you listen to him on podcasts and stuff, he's actually very engaging, great to listen to. It kind of surprised me. So was Patrick Beverly, even though I'm not a fan necessarily of what he says all the time, depending on the player he's talking about. He is an engaging person to listen to talk. So is Draymond Green. However, on the court, both of them I can't stand. Now, one of the things that I was noticing in Game 2, actually, and this was kind of a factor, I believe, in Game 1, Robert Williams was still not able to, like after the first quarter. First quarter, he was looking really, really good. Then later on, you could tell that he wasn't able to move it the way he wanted to. He wasn't on the court as much. There were a lot of like block. He had a few block shots. But also at the same time, the Warriors seemed as though they were always worried about his presence around the rim, which is why I think they were blowing a lot of like bunny layups that were just like right there. They were rushing themselves because of the pressure that the defense was putting on them, specifically Robert Williams. I feel as though if he can't really get back to himself, then it's going to be it makes it that much harder, because if the Warriors, what they like to do is spread you out with the shots and then get those easy drives to the basket, easy drop-offs, easy layups, basically. If Robert Williams is there, he is usually athletic enough to recover and protect the rim. However, he's on one leg right now. So I see that as being a pretty big problem. Next up was Horford, White, and Smart. In game one, they went off. They definitely went off. However, in game two, the drop off in terms of offensive, like their offensive impact was drastic. And they even put up the picture of the graphic during the game in game two. Now, here's the thing. Horford did that as well in the Heat series. He had one game where he just went nuts, and in the following two games, he kind of disappeared. I don't know if that's an age thing or if that's just like the other team adjusting to, okay, well, we're not going to give Al Horford wide open three-point shots, whatever. But it seems as though like once he has that one game where he can like just explode, then he kind of falls back to the mean. You know what I mean? He regresses a bit. Derek White, I was sitting there like, I think he's a really good offensive option, and sometimes a better option than Marcus Smart, because he seemed a bit more like offensive, have a more offensive punch than Smart does, but he's wildly inconsistent, I guess. Like his last three, like ever since his child was born, he went off, and now yet like game two was when it kind of fell back again, and then Smart, scoring was just down. However, I don't believe that you look at Smart for scoring. He's good at orchestrating the offense and everything, and orchestrating the defense, everything else. Orchestrating is a bit much on the defense. Like he's just a really good lockdown player. But they're going to need some scoring, especially if Jason Tatum is this ineffective. Jason Tatum. Game one, he was able to get 13 assists. I appreciate that. I think that's part of his like being a superstar. Okay, I can't score right now, at least not the way I should be. So I'm going to go ahead and get these assists out. They're going to still come at me. Let me go ahead and find the open man and get 13 assists. I absolutely love to see that. Next step. Game two, the shots weren't falling from the people he was trying to assist to the way it was. And he scored, but he wasn't really that dominant factor that you would want. Neither was Jaylen Brown in that sense. Like the reason why game one and game two were very, very different, the Warriors did basically the same thing in quarter three for both of those games. The difference was in game one, Jaylen Brown went off in the fourth quarter and they just climbed back in it. Then I noticed like in game two for the fourth quarter, they were continuing to get stomped out. And then with 10 minutes left to go in the fourth quarter, Ime Udoka was already putting in his bench players. So it's like, if they're gonna just lull in the third quarter, a quarter where the Warriors absolutely shine, then I don't see them being able to reproduce what they did in game one. Like they have to stay close and this is the same thing too with game one and game two. They were staying relatively close in the first half. There was nothing like ridiculous where it was like out of reach. And then the Warriors explode in game three, in quarter three. And then the fourth quarter is the big question mark. To me, it is they have to find a way, the Celtics, if they want this to go any more or any further, they need to find a way to just kind of stifle the Warriors in the third quarter. Like they can't have the third quarter that happened in game one or game two, because then you're putting so much pressure on yourself in the fourth quarter of these games, if you're down by 15, 20, 25, whatever, to try to dig your way back out and hope to God that the Warriors can't score in the fourth quarter. So, I don't see it going well for the Celtics if they can't somehow slow down the Warriors in the third quarter. Now, let me go ahead and look through this real quick. Robert Williams, Grant Williams, he was getting punked. And that's the thing, too. Nobody mentions it, but you could hear Draymond just calling him everything but the Son of God on the microphone during the broadcast. And it was just like, and Grant Williams looked like that hurt kid who the kids were calling him fat, and he just didn't want to say anything or cry in front of them, but was really hurt. It was like Draymond really laid into him. All right, so anyway, that's enough on the Celtics. As far as the Warriors go, Game one, I thought that the Celtics were basically beating them up. Like it was going to be more of an endurance trial where it is, okay, you guys can have the first three quarters, which that's not exactly how it happened, but you'll see my point. You guys can have the first three quarters if you want to, but in this fourth quarter, we're going to have worn you down to the point of where we can make a comeback. That's how I felt at the end of game one. Now looking at game two, it's like, okay, so if you guys have such a big lead, they don't even need you in the fourth quarter, right? So it's not the endurance trial, the beat up that I thought, or maybe not, because I'm also looking at that fourth quarter in game one differently. Jaylen Brown went off, and it opened up things for everybody else, and there wasn't that in game two, and it wasn't the quote unquote endurance trial, and in fact, the Warriors didn't have to play in the fourth quarter if they didn't want to, at least not like the starters. And the thing that kind of stunned me or shocked me, well, two things. One, we'll go Jordan Poole before I talk Klay Thompson. Jordan Poole in game one did not exist. And somebody brought up a really good point, and apparently he fixed it by game two. I don't know. But if you're talking about like the Mavericks, if you're talking about, I think it was the Nuggets, if you talk about those teams, they're not as deep defensively as the Celtics. And so when you get to your third defender, if you're putting your best two defenders on Klay Thompson and Steph Curry, or Steph Curry and Andrew Wiggins, whoever, then you have Jordan Poole, who's going to be dealing with the third defender, per se, fourth defender, whoever, and he's going to be able to shine because he's a starter level player. Like, he's young, but he's a starter level player, and so he can just abuse that third level defender. Well, in game two, in game one, they have so many long, athletic, tall defensive players. Smart, Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown. I mean, even Grant Williams can keep his feet in front of him. Like, that when you get down to it, okay, so then if you put Smart on Curry and you put Tatum on Klay, now you have Brown on Poole. That's still an amazing defender on him. So I can see where that would have affected his offense in game one, but by game two, apparently, he found his groove, and this half court shot where he basically just dribbled like it was it was off the dribble from half court. He hit nothing but net, and I love that look where Steph Curry was looking at him and Poole like had his look back like, you better ask somebody, man. Come on now, you don't know, but you're about to find out real quick. And I love that energy that he brought then in quarter three, and that just carried over into quarter four, where I started to have concerns actually for the Warriors. Now, once I saw that the Celtics were going to lose, then I was watching because I was like, okay, so what are they doing now? I was looking and seeing that Klay Thompson was staying in the fourth quarter, along with Poole. And Poole, you just get him some minutes, get him some more confidence, whatever. He's a younger player. Get him some more finals minutes. Gotcha. Thompson, they were clearly trying to get him out of his slump by putting him against defensive players that should not be able to stay in front of him and let him get a few buckets. And it seemed like he was still struggling, and he was starting to get frustrated. And I can understand where he's getting frustrated because Hall of Famer, legend, should have been in the top 75 players. You can go ahead and drop off whoever you want, but he should have been in there. But now he's like Achilles, ACL, back to back. He's not what he was 2 years ago. He missed 900 plus days of basketball, like NBA level basketball. So yeah, he's not the same guy. And I can tell that he can feel it, like that he's not the same, but it's frustrating him, and he's trying to get back to a level where he can even just be serviceable, and he doesn't feel like he's there yet. So he's getting frustrated, pressing, and it's making it worse and worse and worse for him. So, I mean, it does concern me that Klay isn't able to find his rhythm. Now, I will say this, in the previous series against the Mavericks, the first two games, he was not great. And then he started to get better third, fourth, fifth, and later on in the series, I mean, game five, game six, Klay showed up, right? So in order for them to actually win, for the Warriors to win, out of their four main offensive options, they need, okay, put it this way. They need two of them to go off-ish, 25 plus. They need one to go 15 to 20. And then the fourth one can disappear if he wants to. But I don't know if you can count on Andrew Wiggins to provide you 15 to 20 points consistently. Jordan Poole, I definitely don't know that because he's still a very, very young player. He did good in game two. He did terrible in game one. Who knows what game three is going to be? Klay was that one who was, splash brother. You could count on him. Sometimes he would go off and go nuclear and score 60, but you would always count on him for 20 to 25, and now you can't count on him for that. Plus, defensively, he is definitely not what he used to be. He can't put you in a phone booth like he used to. So that is really bothering me to the point of where they may have to bench Clay and bring him out with the second unit. And maybe, I don't know if you put Poole in or if you go a little bit more defensive and put like Gary Payton II, who had a very good impact defensively for the Warriors. I don't know if you do something like that, but it feels as though Clay's trying, but it's just not there. So, yeah. In any case, so with that being said, the Celtics to me, they have and actually I can check that out. Their home playoff record this year has been terrible. It is 5-4. And in the series versus the Heat, I think they lost all but one. They lost 3 home playoff games again in the Eastern Conference Finals. So right now, I don't have a lot of confidence in that. Now, at the same time, they are going home, right? And so a few of those whistles are going to go their way. I'm sure that there's going to be something that happens with Draymond Green. I don't know exactly what it is, but I got a feeling something's going to happen. However, at the same time, they are a team that lulls in the third quarter. They have the 1-1 tie, and they seem to be kind of happy with that, which is why I think they got pulled so early in the fourth quarter. Emmanuel Obi was like, look, it's already a 30-point lead. We got 10 minutes left in this game. Y'all aren't playing like y'all want it. I'm going to go ahead and sit you down so nobody gets injured, and then we're going to take them up in game 3. And so they did what they set out to do, and it just feels like, all right, y'all can have this one. Maybe you shouldn't do that. But now you go into game 3, maybe a little bit overconfident. You're going home off of a loss, and you're like, okay, well, we split the series. This is our home floor. And they don't, or maybe they do the opposite because they don't protect their home floor. So I could see where the Warriors come in with their hair on fire and take game 3. I think there's going to be a better game from Clay because, as I said with the Maverick series and series before, first 2 games he wasn't great. Third game he wasn't like spectacular, but he got better along the way. So I could see him having a good game. Poole, I think, might shrink a little bit because, again, he is a young player. This is his first finals, and he's about to go into Boston. Boston don't play. Like, they do not play. And actually what may be worse for Draymond is getting 3 fouls and having to sit on the bench with all of those Celtics fans behind him with nothing more to do with their energy than to just rain down whatever obscenities they can on Draymond, which, yeah. So that has me talking like I think the Celtics are going to win. I don't, the thing that worries me is their third quarter lulls, which is consistent throughout the playoffs, but at the same time, the Warriors tend to explode. Jason Tatum, he has not been great, but it's hard for me to see him having 3 above average for any other NBA player, but for him, you're expecting more, right? So it's hard for me to say that he's going to have 3 bad games in a row. But I'm trying to think of who you count on offensively in this matchup. And I don't think that there is anyone that you can count on offensively in the Celtics in game 3. Like when their back's against the wall in game 4, I think they'll take game 4. And I think the series will get split, but I think the Warriors take game 3. So, by the way, if you couldn't tell, I'm not at all confident in that pick. So, in any case, that is my game 3 preview. Thank you guys for watching. Please like, please subscribe, and I'll see you next time.